First of all, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here at DEF CON in the Adversary village. And I hope you like this presentation, which is called New Generation of Peace. We are going to discuss a little bit more about this piece and why is there a new generation. My name is Carlos Polop. I work as Senior Security Engineer at Metal. I have some certifications. I play CDF and all this stuff. So if you want to talk about me, if you want to know something else about me, just check my LinkedIn, and you can also contact me via Twitter or even email for the more traditional one. So in this talk, we are going to talk a little bit about the Peace Suite, what it is, why is it useful, why is there a new generation. Then I'm going to very briefly introduce hack trees and how can it be useful in combination with the Peace Suite. And then we are going to see some demos about Lean Peace, Mac Peace, and Win Peace. At the end, we are going to very briefly see what is bot Peace, the last P being added just 1 or 2 months ago. And then I want to talk a little bit about the to-do in order to indicate the community how you can help to the Peace suite if you like it. So, Suite Peace. Peace is, the name Peace comes from Privilege Escalation Awesome Script Suite. Basically, this suite is a combination of scripts that will allow you to enumerate the most common host, and I'm talking about Windows, Linux, Unix in general, and even Mac, in order to find easy ways to escalate privilege. So before the Peace Suite, there were already a few scripts that performed these actions. But I liked them, but I didn't feel very comfortable with them because there were a lot of data that was mostly useless, and I didn't want to lose my time reading this data and figuring out if you can use it in any way or not. And because they didn't have enough text, or at least they didn't have the text I wanted to implement. So that's the reason I started this suite. So in Peace, we are going to find very comprehensive scripts for enumerate hosts and see how hardened they are and how you can escalate privilege. You are not going to find endless data lists, so you are going to know where you need to focus in order to find these vulnerabilities you are looking for. They have more text than any other tool, or at least I tried this, and this is because I mostly add probably one new check per week, so that's a very, very cool way to update the scripts. As I have said before, the piece can be executed for Linux, MacOS, mostly any Unix flavor, and also Windows, which is great. And I think it's the only privilege escalation enumeration tool that can be executed in this amount of different operative systems. But I think the fact that most people love about the piece is that the output is colored. This means that you are going to find, for example, the color red where something is suspicious, or the color green where something is well configured, and this is very useful in order to know where you need to focus or where you should focus in order to try to find vulnerabilities. Last of the characteristics is the monitorization. We will talk about this later because actually you cannot use any monitorization at the moment, but my idea with this Peace new generation scripts is that you are going to be able to execute the piece in a host as frequently as you want and be able to compare different results in order to see how good you are doing hardening your systems. As I have said, this is not available yet, but I hope this will be soon. And well, the more help the community gives me, the sooner this will be prepared. But before going into depth with this, I want to show you what is Hackers, because this is going to be highly useful when using these tools. So I'm going to open this link, and you can see that Hackers is basically a book with a lot of cool tricks of hacking. But now I want us to focus on the privilege escalation checklist for Linux and Windows. And in a few weeks, I hope I will create one specifically for Mac, where you can basically see some checklist of things that you should search on each computer in order to try to find vulnerabilities and, well, improve the security or exploit the vulnerabilities, depending if you are in a blue team or in a red team. Also, Hacktrace is pretty useful because when you execute these tools, you are going to see probably some links to some parts of the book. And this is because if you don't understand the check that the script is performing, you can access this URL and you are going to have the theory about the check, why is being performed and what you should check for and how can you exploit a vulnerability found in that section, if any. You have it for Linux, for macOS in the future, I'm just starting, and for Windows. And to give you a very brief example, for example, let's say that you find some vulnerability which is related to access tokens and you don't know what access tokens in a Windows environment, you can just come here and have a description about what is the access token, how to enumerate them, how can they be abused, and everything. Basically, this is pretty useful to know why are the pieces performing the checks they are doing and how can you exploit them if you find any vulnerability. Also, you have here the URL. This is free for everyone. You can just access the book and use it as you please. So let's continue. Now we are going to start with the demos. First, we are going to perform a Linux with Limpis and then a demo with MacPiece. So I have a pretty vulnerable and very outdated Debian machine that we are going to execute Limpis just to see the vulnerabilities that it is finding. So I have already accessed this machine via SSH. So I'm logged. Who am I? I'm the user, and I'm in this very outdated Debian machine. I have also already uploaded Limpis, so we are just going to execute it. First of all, take a look at the options because Limpis and Whippis have several options that may be useful. For example, in Limpis, you can find the -A. This means to perform all checks. And this is because there are some checks that are very, very slow or that are very noisy that by default they aren't executed. But if you are playing a CTF or you don't care about being noisy or about the time, I completely recommend you to execute -A because more checks are going to be executed. So you have the superfast option, and you also have some options that will allow you to perform network region just using Limpis, which is kind of cool because just with Limpis you will be able to enumerate the machine, but also to enumerate the network if you don't want to upload any other tools. So let's execute Limpis. We are just going to run it without -A. We are just going to run Limpis in a normal version. So here we can see that Limpis start with a very, very, very beautiful banner. Here we can find version. We can find legend. This means what the legend indicates what the color means, which is kind of awesome because here we can see that the red yellow indicates a 90%, 95% chance of privilege escalation vector. Red means that, well, you should take a look at it. And green basically means well-configured things or common things that you really shouldn't care about because this was found in other machines. We have some basic information about the tools that are available to enumerate the network. And then we start enumerating the system. So here we can find system information. We can see just in red that the kernel is pretty old. The pseudo version is also a little bit old, so probably they are vulnerable. We can see a little more information about the system, CPU info, environment. You may be able to find some passwords here. We enumerate also some Linux protections, like is Linux enabled, is ASLR, is this a virtual machine? Actually, this is. So we have here just some information about the container, if this was a container, but we are inside a container, so nothing interesting here. Devices, available software. It's good to know if you have some compiler available to compile possible kernel exploits. Then we start taking a look to processes that may be vulnerable to escalate privilege, binary process permissions, cron jobs, and here we can find the first highly probable privilege escalation vector that Limpis has found. So for example, here, this user is able to write in a path that is being used in a cron that is then being executed by root without indicating the path. So for example, if we create a file called override.sh with a reversal in this folder, this is going to be executed by root, and we are going to obtain a reversal execute by root. Here we can see the limp is enumerating more information. Also, network is always important to know where you are in a network and which other networks, new networks you can access and enumerate them. Here we are just enumerating local network, and we're even checking if we can sniff traffic using TCP/DAM. Then we are enumerating some user information, and here we can see that there are a bunch of ways to escalate privilege by executing different binaries with sudo. More information about the users, software information. This is pretty interesting and is one of the main things of Limpis and Wimpis, and it's one of the main new topics in the new generation scripts. So we are going to talk about them later. But basically here we are just looking for sensitive files that may be containing sensitive informations related to some specific software. For example, some Tomcat configuration files that may have passwords inside of it. You can see that we are looking for a bunch of them, actually. We'll talk about this later. So we are going to continue till the last section, which is interesting files. These files, the files that are here just because they have some interesting fact that will make Limpis to enumerate them. For example, here we can find all the SUID files. Some of them has been vulnerable in the history, so we have here some information about in which systems these SUID binaries are vulnerable, and also the SUID binaries that aren't known by Limpis are going to be executed in order to perform a few checks to see if we can abuse these files to execute arbitrary commands and escalate privilege. Same thing for SGID files. Again, if you don't know what these files are, you can follow this link and you will find all the information. Checking misconfigurations. Well, we are checking more misconfigurations. We can write a few files and folders here that we can abuse to escalate privilege. So this is very cool. Readable file. So basically here you're going to see that Limpis is looking for a lot of information that maybe give you sensitive information or the power to escalate privilege. Always take a look to everything because you can find something interesting. So this is Limpis. Now we are going to continue with a MacPiece demo. But there is something important that you need to know. First of all, there is no MacPiece script because MacPiece is actually inside of Limpis. If you execute Limpis inside a Mac host, MacPiece is going to be executed. And I have created this script this way because the code that both flavors of the script shares is like 90%. So almost every part of the code is shared. So I just generate some specific parts for the Mac version in order to run these parts in a Mac computer instead of the regular Limpis. But as you can see here, just execute Limpis in a Mac OS system, and the MacPiece version will be automatically executed. So this is very cool because you only need to know how one script works, in order to execute it in Linux, in Mac OS, and in potentially any flavor of Unix. So my current host is a Mac, so I have already executed the Limpis version in my Mac. Actually, I haven't executed from file, but I have executed from memory. I have just downloaded from GitHub and pipe it into a sh shell. So this way, the script is never going to touch the disk. Yeah. here we can see that I have already executed, because as my host have a lot of more files than a virtual machine, this could take, instead of taking just 1 minute, this could take around 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I don't want to keep you waiting. So here we can see that the banner is much more ugly. I really definitely need to improve that, but well, it's not on my priority list. Again, here we can see some information, some basic information. We can see some system info, and we can mostly see the same information from limpies in MacPiece. The difference is like underneath there are different binaries being executed to obtain the same information. But it's pretty cool, so because you just need to execute one, it is going to be intelligent enough to distinguish between Mac or Linux, and just the correct version is going to be executed. Well, as I have said, you are going to find most of the same information as before, so we can pass this output. You can just test it on your own. Okay. So limpies, quick start. Also, there are other more stealthy ways to execute limpies. A bunch of them are mentioned in the README, even ways to bypass antiviruses. So check this out, because it's going to be very cool for you to learn how you can execute limpies, probably just using netcat and curl, or even without that, using bus pipes. So yeah, that's all for limpies. Okay. So let's continue with WinPiece. WinPiece is obviously the Windows version of the script. Okay, so here I have a Windows virtual machine where we are going to execute WinPiece. Obviously, WinPiece is using a completely different script than limpiece. Actually, there are two different projects for WinPiece. One is the batch version, and the other one is the exe version. The batch version is less maintained than the X version, and is mostly created for all Windows machines. So the most maintained version of WinPiece is going to be the X one, and it's the one I recommend you to execute if you can. Obviously, there are some requirements like the .NET version, but mostly you are going to, in nowadays, Windows, you are going to be able to execute it, so I definitely recommend you to execute this version. So here also we have a quick start, and we also have a few ways to execute WinPiece from memory, or WinPiece, or execute WinPiece while doing some kind of stealthy things in order to avoid antivirus to detect that we are executing the binary. I recommend you to take a look because it is pretty interesting. WinPiece also have some interesting parameters. For example, WinPiece allows you to execute limpies, and this is very cool because if you find in a Windows the Windows subsystem for Linux, you can execute limpies because it is a bash script. So if you just indicate to WinPiece the URL where it can find limpies, it is going to download and execute it from memory, I think. Also, you don't even need to host your version of limpies. You can just indicate the URL for limpies inside GitHub. And well, you have also more help information, basic information. Where are my colors? When you execute WinPiece without doing anything in a new Windows host, you are not going to see any color. You need to execute this first in order to indicate the registry that, hey, I want you to interpret the colors that are going to be displayed. So just run this. You don't need to be root or anything, and the colors will magically appear. Well, you need to start another PowerShell cell. Okay. So I have already run WinPiece in this host. We can see that we have another very beautiful banner. We have some information about the creators. And we start as with limpies. We start seeing some system information. We have integrated Watson inside WinPiece. So this is pretty cool because it will just run with WinPiece. Here we can find that we have we are enumerating the hotfixes that has been applied to this virtual machine in this case, information about environment variables, information about audit, web, labs, wdigest. Again, if you don't know what, for example, if you don't know what is wdigest, you can just access this URL inside Hacktricks, and you will learn what is this and why is this important. Same LSA protection, credential guards. So the main difference between WinPeace and LinPeace, apart from the obvious one, is that you are not going to find these red, yellow colors in WinPeace, that you will find them in LinPeace, and this is because maybe in WinPeace it's more complicated to be so sure that something is going to give you a privilege escalation path, so I haven't implemented those yet, but I may do that in the future. Well, as you can see, in WinPeace is enumerating a lot of things, interesting events. Now we have some user informations. In red, you can find interesting things for attackers. So here you can find that this user is administrator. Homes inside folders. Something interesting about WinPeace is that it is checking every path that appears. So for example, if this path was reachable by our current user, this will appear on red and will tell you, hey, you can write this binary, maybe you can escalate privilege because this is being executed. As you can see here, obviously you cannot escalate privilege overriding WinPeace because this is a binary of the user we are using. But maybe if this was being run by another user, which is an administrator, and you can write the binary, you may be able to escalate privilege. Same for services information. Actually, here you can see an example of what I have been talking about, and is that this service, this binary of this service is reachable by everyone. So here you have a privilege escalation path. Also, WinPeace is checking for no quotes and space in the bin path of dev services. So you may be able to abuse this misconfiguration also to escalate privilege. More information about applications, how to run. Same, you may find some places that you can, well, write, and your binary is going to be executed with higher privilege. So that's pretty awesome. And I want to show you a few more things. Network information, again, is very important to know where you are inside an internal network, if you're inside an internal network, or anyway, which other networks you can access that you weren't able to access before. And also it's important to check the ports. I don't have, well, UDP, the ports that are listening just in localhost, because maybe these services are vulnerable and you can, well, escalate privilege abusing those. We found some, well, the NTLM hash of our current user, I think. User, yeah. We found the unattended file. This may have credentials of the administrator user. And this is pretty awesome because you can see here this section, the file analysis section, and we are also looking for a lot of files that may be storing sensitive information. So before the piece new generation, every time I wanted to search for a file that may be containing sensitive information, I needed to add a specific check to LinPeace and then a specific check to WinPeace, which was pretty awful because, well, it was kind of hard and, well, it took several minutes. With the new generation scripts, we have this build list. Inside this build list folder, we have this sensitive file YAML, where you can find all the sensitive potential files that can storage sensitive information. This is pretty awesome because, for example, file FIA, this YAML is specifying to search the folder with the name file FIA, and inside this folder to search the file called sitemanager.xml, and if it is found, print in red all the lines that contain some of those regexes. So this is pretty awesome because LinPeace and WinPeace are automatically created using this YAML. So both of them are going to search all these files, and if they found them while executing, they are going to print them to you. This is very awesome, because now, in order to just add a new check, if I want to if I discover a new file that maybe contains sensitive information, I can just add it to this YAML, and this is going to, and the new limpies and wimpies are going to automatically be built and are going to be searching for the new sensitive file. So this is very easy to maintain, and also it's very easy for the community to help me adding new files that may be storing sensitive information. Actually, you have here a few examples well explained. So if you want to just contribute to this script because you know about this file that may be containing credentials that aren't included yet, just take a look to the example, include it in the YAML, create a pull request to master, and the new versions are going to be automatically built. So it's just awesome. As I have said before, WinPeace has another flavor, which is the batch one, which is meant for all machines. Actually, the syntax is a little bit more complicated because batch is not very flexible. Anyway, if you need to use it at any point, you can find it here, and also take a look to this explanation of how to understand the permissions, because you will need it in order to find the paths to escalate privilege, because here you are not going to find colors. Well, because batch is not very flexible. So we are ending this presentation. We are going to continue with bot piece. I created this like 1 or 2 months ago, I think. This is a very simple script. This is basically monitoring new CVEs, and the ones that are related to privilege escalation are going to be indicated in this group of Telegram. And in this group, we also discuss about hack trees, piece, and latest news in cybersecurity. So it's free for everyone. You feel free to join it. And also you can find bot piece in GitHub. You can find it. You can find it here. And actually this bot allows you to create your own bot in order to monitor your own the CVs you're interested in. So basically you can modify this YAML and set your own keywords, and then put your Slack webhook or your Telegram token, and the bot will send you all the new CVs that are discovered that contains the keywords that you have specified here. In this case, we are just looking for things related to privilege escalation. Yeah, things related to privilege escalation or Docker container escape. Okay. So yeah, feel free to join the group if you please. Finally, about the to-do. So we now have in this new generation tools, we have the capability of create JSONs from the raw output, and you can find the script to generate these JSONs in the parser folder. So you can basically execute the piece parser, give the path to the output of the output of one piece script, and generate the JSON. I'm looking forward to someone that from that JSON can generate a beautiful report, PDF, HTML report. That will be awesome. Also, I want to develop web piece, which is going to be the the centralized agent that will allow you to automatically execute limpies or wimpies and compare the results and even add new features. So I'm really looking for someone with experience in front-end and or back-end. So if you want to help me developing web piece in order to allow to perform this constant monitorization, just contact me. And finally, obviously, wimpies and limpies are very big scripts, but can be bigger. So if you know about new techs, or if you want to help updating the list that they are using, just contact me, because, well, this is a huge project that needs a few help. The help of everybody that can, any help that you can bring me. So I hope you have enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much. I hope you are enjoying DEFCON. And now I will be in the Discord channel if you have any questions. Thank you for your time again.